have an obsession with the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah. It was basically a threat.
I love our passion for murder.
Yes. Maybe we can get together and do one these days. We'll be the longitude, latitude murderers. We'll kill you.
Kirk McCrackin is a very suspenseful guy. He hangs out a lot at the gym. He works conveniently as an editor of the Sand Springs Leader, so it gives him the opportunity to portray the stories in the way that he wants them portrayed. Hashtag fake news. So who is this Kirk McCrackin? What has he possibly done? What murders could Kirk have committed that has been covered up through his own paper? We dive into that and more. But first, Kirk, let's talk about podcasting. What's up, man? What are your top 3 podcasts that you listen to currently?
It would have to be Bible Belt Brothers.
Oh, whatever. You just told me you never even listened to this podcast. I think you just liked it on Facebook a couple days ago.
Yeah, I think so. Man, lately I haven't listened to a lot lately just because I've been so busy with all my appearances and running from fans and stuff. But I would say the most I've listened to is probably the Generation Y podcast. That's probably the most. Joe, for a long time I liked Joe Rogan's podcast. Recently I got really upset at it because, and this is petty, but he had Nick Swardson on, which I'm a huge Nick Swardson fan. He actually liked one of my tweets one time, which made me an even bigger fan. But
print that and frame it.
That's right. Oh, I've got it saved on my phone. But Joe Rogan had Nick Swardson on, and he's hilarious. And he's one of those guys that just says the funniest things. And through the entire podcast, Nick was just throwing out one-liners that were hilarious, and they just would go right by Joe Rogan, and it just was making me so mad. Like I said, it's petty, but I do like his podcast. I think he does a really good podcast. So, I mean, those are probably the 2 most that I listen to.
I started probably the very first podcast that I just got into podcasting was obviously Serial. It's a pretty epic podcast.
Yeah. I tried it. I didn't get into it.
I still think he's not guilty. I've listened to the After podcast sponsored by his defense fund, like going into detail. Serial season 2 with Bowie Bergdahl was I was not a fan of that.
Really?
I talked to veterans and they weren't fans of him
really?
At all. So
nice.
Yeah, so that was interesting. I was hoping to have some of them on the podcast while that was still a relevant topic, but
sure.
Didn't happen. And then let's see, Crime Writers on. Have you heard of that podcast?
No.
They are fictional crime writers, they're authors,
right?
And they started doing a podcast when Serial it used to be Crime Writers on Serial, and now they're Crime Writers on, and they'll talk about different true crime podcasts, and they're just from a writer's perspective, and they just
they're fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Okay,
sorry,
you threw me off.
What is it? Fiction? What is fiction?
Nonfiction would be true crime. Because it's true.
Okay, they're fiction. They're fiction writers,
so they make up stuff. They're not writing about real subjects.
Right.
Okay.
Their books are about fake.
Okay, and see,
fiction is fake. I always get that.
I can't get into fiction because to me there's so much out there.
But their podcast is about true crime.
Okay, I'm with you.
So they're
crossing lines.
They're crossing the lines. They're taking kind of their perspective when they write stories.
Cool. Okay.
Fascinating crime and stuff. And so it's just an interesting podcast, and then that's how I learn about new crime podcasts that are updated. Missing Richard Simmons. Have you heard that podcast?
No, I've heard of it.
That's pretty funny. Pretty interesting story is all it is. And let's see what else. I'm just kind of scrolling through my podcast feed. Accused was a good one. Good true crime.
Was that with Jodie Foster? No, I'm kidding. That's the movie she was in.
Okay. Crime Town. Ever heard of Crime Town?
Mm-mm.
You know the HBO series where that guy accidentally confessed to murder on it?
Oh yeah, that
it's made by those guys.
Oh, okay. That was the
Robert Durst.
Robert Durst, yeah, the billionaire.
Where he talked like like Gollum, and he's
Yeah.
like, "You killed them."
Dude,
that was like more Yoda.
He killed his wife,
Yeah.
and then he
best friend from
he killed his best friend who was involved with the mafia.
Yeah.
And then he ended up killing a guy, like in
killing
Houston,
a neighbor,
chopping him up, and he was acquitted of that.
Yeah.
Self-defense. He chopped him up in tiny little pieces, and then dressed up like a woman and walked around. I mean, he obviously knew he did something wrong. He was hiding his identity.
Right, exactly.
And they acquitted him.
They won on a self-defense.
Yeah, that dude, he had so much money. It was ridiculous.
Crime Town is a podcast you might like, and a podcast you might, if you're going through your book, they took this mob story from Rhode Island, I think. I can't remember. But they just basically have these old, like 80-year-old mobsters, like have some interviews about crimes that they committed, but it like flows like through like where the mayor, like a mayor gets elected saying he's going to take out the mob, but the mob was what helped him get elected, so
like Kennedy.
Exactly. And so it's just a very interesting story, and it's mostly told by the guys telling the story, and then they'll have some sound bites where they get to interview some of those characters that are actually in the story. And then the final podcast, they had like a panel where they were all there, and it's just really interesting them being able to tell the stories now.
I kind of missed the mob. They were classy killers.
They had a code of conduct.
They killed each other. They didn't kill innocent people for the most part.
Yeah.
And they dressed really nice.
So I want to say all that because we're both true crime kind of guys. And you have an obsession with the Zodiac Killer.
An unhealthy obsession, probably, with the Zodiac.
So tell us about that obsession.
I read Robert Graysmith's first book, Zodiac, probably mid to late 90s, I think, and just absolutely loved it. And I think I love the fact that they never got caught. I mean, it's one of those... It's a serial killer you cannot put a face to, but you can put a mask to him because he obviously wore a hood once whenever he attacked a couple. But that's the thing. It's kind of like a horror movie. Like you see that mask when you think of the Zodiac, and he didn't always wear it. He just did it that one time, I think. But I'm just fascinated that he never got caught. And so then I read Graysmith's next book, which is Zodiac Unmasked, and I think that's whenever he it's been so long, but I think that's when he pretty much said it was Arthur Lee Allen. But since then, so many people have said it couldn't have been, like it wasn't, and then they have all these other suspects. And at one point, someone tried to link Bruce Davis from the Manson family to the Zodiac, and then I read another thing where the Moonlight Murders, that the Town That Dreaded Sundown, the movie was made about. They tried to say that was the Zodiac as a young person, and then because some of the stuff was similar or whatever. And it's just I think it's all that new stuff that just constantly kind of comes up and is regurgitated that interests me. But yeah, I just really and then when the movie came out with Jake Gyllenhaal and Robert Downey Jr., I just absolutely love that movie. So I write a column. I try to write one every week for the paper, and at one point I mentioned the Zodiac joking around, and my buddies started sending me letters, from the Zodiac. It was kind of funny, and I would share them on Facebook. And at one point, I shared one of their letters. It was goofy, and I got a letter that was obviously not from them, and it had I don't even remember exactly what it said, but it obviously was from someone who really appreciated the Zodiac, because there was a lot of this, double postage, certain words were misspelled. Just things like that. And so I didn't really think anything of it. And then about a year later, I mentioned the Zodiac again in a column for something. And then I get a letter from New York that had a cipher in it. And so I went to the original cipher that was cracked or whatever, and it was using that. So then I decoded it, and it basically had this message, this kind of ominous something about cake and, all that kind of stuff. It was basically a threat. I don't think it was the Zodiac. I really don't. I think the Zodiac's dead. But
if he was alive, it'd be in his 80s.
Oh,
right
yeah.
Now,
And so whoever did this really took the time. And like I said, the postage was from New York. So I recently started watching this Hunting the Zodiac show on History Channel, which I ended up really not liking that much. But there was one episode where they claimed that one of their suspects had moved to New York and had threatened to kill someone there and blah, blah, blah. And it was the postage on my letter was the same place they said that this guy lived. So it was kind of, me and my son got a real big kick out of it. But I just think it's some fan that thought it would be fun to mess with me.
Copycat kind of thing.
Sure.
And you posted something recently, was what made me think of it. Was that from and then you said you posted something about your letters from the Zodiac. I guess we'll always have those.
Yeah.
And then you got another one in the mail.
That was the one with the cipher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was that one. Because I had mentioned something, that I'd missed our time together or something like that, and then I got that one. So it was a little creepy. I mean, even if it's someone who's just a fan of the Zodiac and is trying to mess with me, it's someone that took the time to do all that.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there were numbers at the bottom of the letter. Couldn't figure it out, and so my son, he's 20. I sent him a picture, and I was like, "What is this?" And he punched him into the Google machine, and it came up. There were longitude and latitude, and it was to our house.
Oh my gosh!
So that's when things kind of turned a little bit for me. Like, this is kind of not fun anymore, So that was kind of cool.
That'd be fun, because if it's your friends, normally they wouldn't think of those different.
No, I don't think any of my friends are that smart, except for maybe John Fothergill.
They probably don't even know what longitude and latitude is.
No, God, no. No.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. But as if I had a favorite serial killer, which is really odd to say, it's probably the Zodiac.
The Zodiac Killer. And I've watched some of his special, or more on YouTube, some Hunting the Zodiac. It wasn't the History Channel show.
There's a ton of them on YouTube.
That looked a little too fake intense for me.
It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. I'm into the story with Making a Murderer
with Stephen Avery.
Yeah. I'm into that kind of thing. It just it baffles me how they can throw out the testimony of the kid on the kid's trial, but not on Stephen Avery's trial.
Oh yeah,
those kind of things. Or how when somebody can be, two people can be charged for the same crime. This person gets guilty on both counts of murder and then, what was it, mutilation or something like that.
Right.
And the other one just gets murder and no mutilation. But they were charged for the same thing, supposedly the testimony there at the same time.
Right.
It's just interesting to me, how our court systems work like that.
It's messed up. And I watched it religiously. And matter of fact, me and my family, all four of us, we binge watched it. I mean, it was all of a sudden 4:00 in the morning. And we had but we've got to figure out what's going on with the next episode, and we would watch it. I mean,
it was really good at leaving those cliffhangers.
Oh yeah. So I think we watched it in 3 days. We'd get home from work, they get home from school, and we'd just start it. We'd eat dinner during, But at the very end of it, I said, okay, he's innocent. I can't believe it. They've got a guy, and then more stuff about was it Brendan Dassey, the nephew or something like that?
Yeah.
Then there was more stuff about how he was railroaded and all that. And so I really tried to sit down and analyze it and figure it out. And I really think that Stephen Avery probably killed that girl. But then I think what the police did to make it look like he killed her is so wrong on so many levels, because I think they could have maybe proven it without
all the evidence.
But to me, doing that to someone, you might as well just let him go. You might as well. I mean, you've screwed this thing up so royally that I think there's no way that she was tied to Stephen Avery's bed and shot and killed and mutilated, and there not be a drop of blood, not a bit of physical evidence. But then they used that testimony to convict him.
Exactly.
And it obviously did not happen. They couldn't, and where the key was and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you have to really look at it and say, okay, taking all of the emotion out of it, he probably did it. Probably took her car and hid it in his thing. Thought nobody would ever find it.
But that's the thing. Like, why would you hide it? Why you had the crusher right next to it?
Exactly. I don't know. But I don't. And I'm almost contradicting myself because I want to say I don't think the police would have gone that far to put the body in the thing, blah, blah, blah. But then they went that far during their interrogation by putting this stuff in Dassey's head. And you know, so that whole thing is just insane to me.
To me, there's a money play in there where Avery was suing and was going to be owed millions of dollars.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was like $35 million or something.
Yeah.
For the first wrongful conviction, and had to settle that to be able to pay court fees
For like a couple $100,000, I think.
Yeah. And so just that aspect alone gives motive to the county and the police department.
Well, and if you look at situations like this, and like say the West Memphis 3, even with the West Memphis 3, they obviously didn't kill those 3 boys in Arkansas. But if you look at later, whenever they would go through appeals, the guy that was the prosecutor ended up becoming a judge that would decide whether or not the stuff he did was illegal. And then the judge that was their presiding judge ended up being a Supreme Court judge, and he would get, you know, for the Supreme Court of Arkansas or whatever, and then he would get to decide on whether his rulings were, I mean, it was like, these guys aren't going to say I screwed up.
Exactly.
And so they stayed in prison way longer than they should have. But then, and what really makes me mad is whenever you see guys walk out of prison, but they have to sign deals saying, okay, I think the state could have proved I did it, but I'm going to take this plea and I can't sue the state for the time that I was in prison.
Yeah, it's wrong in so many levels.
Yeah. To me, if you're in prison and you don't deserve to be there, somebody owes you money. I'm sorry. You know, I think that they were done so wrong. And to know that they were convicted because they wore Iron Maiden t-shirts or I mean, that literally was what got them on the radar. And I mean, that kind of stuff is just crazy.
Have you heard the theory with Wayne Edwards being involved with the making a murderer?
I don't think. Oh yeah. He was at one of the. They have him on video where he was at one of the hearings. Yeah, it showed him in the background, and they were trying to say that he was there to kind of watch his handiwork and
well,
enjoy
and there's
kind of a
apparently
deal.
some other show of a murder where he showed up in the middle of that documentary also, and like maybe it's a thing that he likes to do, knowing people are recording. So it was just
Which
an
is
interesting.
Crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean because he at that time he was really old.
Yeah,
like he could have just like acted like he was broken down on the side of the road. She pulled over. He shoots her, throws her in the back of the car. You know, that's the other thing. If like, why is there blood in the back of the car?
Yeah,
like. If he just, like, he put her in the back of the car to drive her 10 feet to burn her body, it doesn't make sense to me.
And none of it made sense.
And so I don't know if he could have been convicted without that evidence and that testimony. I don't know. He's a weird dude, so you can see him killing somebody, but I don't think that there wasn't enough there to, even go to trial, I guess.
The filmmakers did an amazing job. You know, and then to know that the prosecutor had a pill problem and he was trying to hook up with girls that had been sexually abused and he just, I mean, women who have gone through domestic violence, you know, I mean, that's insane to me. Like, you look at all of those things and it's like even if this guy did it, we did a huge injustice putting him there.
Yes.
You know, I don't know. It's weird.
But yeah, my wife and I, we love those murder mysteries.
Yeah.
I like the unsolved ones personally. Like,
sure.
I like to try to figure
closure.
out. There's no closure.
Yeah.
You have your theories, kind of like the movie or the TV show Lost. You know, you just have your theories of what happened. Like, were they really dead at the end?
Yeah.
I don't know. Spoiler alert.
Purgatory. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
My wife, she watches ID 24/7, the ID channel, and I think she's trying to figure out how the wives got caught killing their husbands, so she can, like, anytime she brings me Gatorade, I always like try to see, you know, is there antifreeze in this? You know,
yeah.
Would I know? That kind of thing. So I think she's trying to kill me.
Yeah. Well, I was having to do some work up on the roof with our antenna because we switched from cable to just air antenna.
Right.
And it's saving us like $120 a month.
We need to do that.
We use her mom's like login to watch stuff online.
Sure.
So
you're stealing.
They got to keep it.
You're stealing cable. Go ahead.
Yeah. But yeah, with all the apps nowadays, why even have cable?
Yeah.
You can even watch sports live now.
Yeah.
Like, so it's just really interesting. But yeah, so she was like, oh, maybe you shouldn't go on the roof. It's too windy because it was like 25-mile-an-hour winds that day. And I was like, well, you missed your chance. And she goes, well, no, maybe you do need to go on the roof because she has a pretty good life insurance policy on me. I'm worth a lot more dead than I am alive at this point. And
you probably have a better personality when you're dead than when you're alive.
I probably would, yes. Better to live with, like I always joke that my wife, when we met, I'm divorced, and so we met. I have a son, kind of every other weekend set up right now.
Right.
She had mentioned like she didn't want kids, like she doesn't desire having kids of her own.
Right.
And jokes on her because she married one. I was telling her last night, I was like, listen, like I play video games all day. I mean, she's cool with it. I was just, before you got here, Kirk, I was streaming me playing video games so she could watch from work. So she enjoys watching my frustration when I lose. I think is part of it. Like, cause I'm just like, I suck so bad at this game. Let's see. She packs my lunch every day.
Nice.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, the stuff like that.
Like a snack pack or a fruit roll up.
She does all my laundry. I sometimes don't even have to put it away, and she's cooking and she's cleaning. Like, it's just like she's living with a human child. So jokes on her.
Things are a bit different at my house. My wife makes all the money. So not only do I cook and clean and do the laundry and have a full-time job, I pretty much have to do whatever she says. So,
well, my wife makes all the money too. And I somehow still have this.
So I have to put her foot down. So I do whatever she says.
Yeah. Well, you better, because you just never know.
I know.
You just
exactly.
Never know.
She could easily. I married up, so she could easily move on down the road. So
without skipping a beat.
Gotta try to keep her happy.
Well, Kirk, I've loved having you on. It's been a great time. I love our passion for murder.
Yes. Maybe we can get together and do one these days.
Yeah. Do a murder?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
You just agreed to it.
I just agreed
That's a legally binding contract in the state of Oklahoma.
All right. Well, the next person that shares your book on Facebook.
That's right.
We're coming after you. We'll send them the longitude and latitude
that's right.
coordinates to their house.
The longitude, latitude murderers.
Yeah,
that'll be our nickname.
Yeah, we just spin a globe and we just point a finger down, and that's where we go.
When the cops come in our house, we'll just have maps with push pins in them.
Man. The sad thing is I don't own a gun personally, because I just know I would shoot myself in the foot or something stupid.
I don't either. I think my wife
would shoot me.
I think my wife would shoot me. She keeps telling me she wants to get her concealed carry permit, but she's really excited about it. And no one's ever attacked her, so I'm not really sure why she wants one, but she wants one pretty bad.
Well, yeah, you're probably in a world of hurt.
Yeah, I think so.
Better check that life insurance policy.
Yeah.
You better, what you need to do is increase it so then it looks suspicious. So you got a couple years before she murders you.
Okay.
So
I could do that, yeah.
Because then she can't, your hands are tied.
True.
So, well, thanks for being on here. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, share this or not. It's whatever.
We'll kill you
at this point. If you don't share, we'll send you some longitude and latitude coordinates. We'll see you next week.